friends. So today I want to just tell you about a little bit of a historical rabbit hole that I got down recently. And it concerns the classic Germanic script called Fraktur. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this script. Everybody knows that this type of writing is associated with Germany and Germanic culture. And if you go to a German restaurant, the name of the restaurant's usually written in this kind of script. It's the classic Gothic, antiquated type old script. And I wondered what the origin of this was. So I looked it up, and it turns out that this script was used for all German writing up until World War II. It was so closely associated with German that even in exams given by universities, one that I saw was given by the University of Sydney in 1899, and in the section where they tested you on German, all of the German words, phrases, sentences were written in Fraktur. German was always written in Fraktur or some other black letter font that was similar to Fraktur. And I wondered why it stopped, why they stopped doing this, and when. So I looked it up, and turns out there was a big debate in Germany about the use of the Fraktur script, which is also commonly referred to as the Gothic script, which is probably how I will refer to it the rest of this video. So the debate was between the Gothic script and what was known as Latin script. And if you open a newspaper or go to a website, look at any modern typeface that is used, it's going to be a Latin script, what they called Latin script, also known as Antiqua script. And so there was this debate in the 19th and early 20th century in Germany about whether they should keep using the Fraktur script, the Gothic script, or switch to the Latin Antiqua script. And German intellectuals and scholars, including even Emperor Otto von Bismarck, they were big supporters of Fraktur. It was associated with depth and sobriety, seriousness, and the Latin script, on the other hand, was associated with lightness, not taking things seriously. It was also associated heavily, and this is the big thing, it was associated with internationalization. The Latin script was being hailed by English and French scholars as being the script that would become the universal script. Latin was supposed to be meant to be something that could be used internationally, whereas the Gothic Fraktur German script was distinctly German. And during the 19th century, most German intellectuals agreed with this. I mean, Otto von Bismarck wouldn't even read German books that were printed with Latin letters. This is something he's famously against. Same with apparently Goethe's mother told Goethe not to write in the Latin script because she wanted him to remain German even in his letters. So why did that change, and when did that change? It turns out that when the Nazis came to power, early on in their power, they agreed with the older notion that Fraktur was a distinctly Germanic script, that the Latin script was a Jewish script, it was international, it was a Roman, alien, foreign script, and they wrote most of their posters and most of their literature in the Gothic Fraktur script. But this is the interesting bit. Later on, word came down from on high, and Wikipedia says that this was a decision made by Goebbels and Hitler. Hitler especially was opposed to the Fraktur Gothic script. And suddenly, very quickly, the Reich reversed their opinion on which script to use. The Latin Antiqua script, which was originally called a Jewish international script, was suddenly the modern, proper script for Germany to use. And the Fraktur script suddenly became called a Jewish script. So it was completely reversed. Fraktur went from being distinctly German to being called a Jewish script. And the Latin script was switched from being called a Jewish script to a modern script that would become the basis of the German language becoming itself an international language that would dominate all of Europe. And it was easier to propagandize and to use the infrastructure, the materials, the machines in other countries to print Latin script because it was already set up for Latin script printing. So Hitler really wanted this international Germany, it seemed. And he wanted to be able to use this script internationally, I guess. But you can make of that what you will. I mean, I'm not entirely sure that the Nazi Party is what we're told of them, but I wanted to look more into this question of whether there's anything to this idea that Fraktur was a Jewish script. It's like, maybe they just figured out something new. Maybe they were right, actually, and they had some information that I didn't know. And so I looked into the origins of the Fraktur script. And it turns out Fraktur was developed out of a single project in the late 1400s. It was developed by a team led by Albrecht Dürer. And Dürer's very close friend and colleague, Hieronymus Andreas, was the inventor of this script. And he invented it for this project, led by Dürer. Dürer was the project leader, of creating these woodcuts to create a giant print of a triumphal arch for Emperor Maximilian of the Holy Roman Empire. And it turns out, based on art historical analysis, looking at the symbols of Dürer's paintings, and even looking at his connections, his father was a goldsmith. He worked very closely with other goldsmiths and printmakers and seal engravers and all these kinds of things. But really, the biggest evidence is the art historical analysis of the symbols in Dürer's paintings. Turns out Dürer was most likely Jewish, almost 99% sure he was Jewish. And that would make it pretty likely then that Andreas was also Jewish. So this project that spawned the Fraktur script was led by people that were very likely Jews, almost certainly Jews. Oh, and I forgot to add, just as a bit of amazing historical irony, Dürer was loved by Adolf Hitler and apparently was called the most German of German artists by the Nazi Party. Which is quite strange. And even the commissioner, the person who commissioned this project, Emperor Maximilian, if you look at his picture, I have no other evidence other than just looking at his face, looking at his nose, which could serve as a perch for birds. I think Maximilian, Emperor Maximilian, might have also been Jewish. He certainly doesn't look German. Just look at him. Look at him. But, so that's a bit of the history behind Fraktur. I don't have any big conclusions to this, but hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.